Um, can you hear me, Santoshji? Okay. Let me begin first of all by expressing my thanks. I really appreciate you giving us permission to record this call and make it available publicly. The issues that we are going to discuss are issues that are very common to entrepreneurial immigrants who are already either well on their in the process of getting their green cards or have received their green card recently. All of them would probably like some parts of this discussion. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you start by telling me a little bit about your situation, whatever you feel comfortable sharing with the public, and then we will. I'll start answering your questions. So unmute me. Let's see if there's still an audio feedback. There may not
Okay.
be. Go ahead, please.
So, my name is Santosh Basapur. Thank you for talking to me today. This is great help beyond what you think.
My pleasure.
It means a lot to me. So, as you described, my case is I think it's very typical of this generation. I came to the United States in August 2000, and I still don't have my green card. But I'm in an advanced stage of green card process. I have an application date of June 2008, and I have an advance parole with my EAD card. So it's not restricting me in any other sense, like in travel and all that. So I can go out of the country and in very easily. But being of the way you put it is very nice, actually. I wanted to start some business of my own, and now I'm really confused about what are the laws and how can I do it, because I not only want to start my own consulting business, I also want to hire some people, citizens who are like American citizens, as well as international students who can do co-ops or internships with me, because the last part of the question is because I teach at Institute of Design. I'm a lecturer there, and I'm also a coordinator of master's degree in systems design. Okay. So I have a lot of international students from across the globe, right? From Brazil, China, India, and other parts. So hence my first question to you would be, I'm on advance parole. I have a EAD card with application date of June 2008. Can I open a business?
Okay. Let me first give you an idea about what is involved.
Okay, thank you.
You may want to mute me while I'm talking. Um, what is involved in starting a business when you still have an EAD based upon a 485? You're not yet done with your green card processing. It's a darn shame that people who obey every law of the country, they have taken great pains in studying and getting well educated and contributing to the economy of this country. It's a darn shame that it takes us 10 years, 15 years just to arrive at the stage of freedom in this country. But it's a choice we have made. We know that this country is still better than many others. It's I guess this is, you take the good with the bad. Now, first of all, when you have an employment-based case going, there could be some restriction on you quitting your job. I know that you don't intend to quit your job. The easiest thing is when you are not quitting your green card sponsoring employer and you want to start something on the side, you have unrestricted freedom. Because you have an EAD, you'll be able to do whatever you like. You can set up shop, you can have your wife, if she's also on EAD, participate in that, because that EAD is what is called free market employment. You can do pretty much everything that a green card holder can do. Okay. The reason I say don't quit your green card job is because that could get tricky. Although, if your green card job and your business are quite similar, you could use AC-21 to port over to your own job after 180 days of 485 pendency and I-140 approval. This particular point has been mentioned in a May 2005 memorandum by William Yates. Bill Yates was asked this question in that memorandum. Sir, you say that we can port over to same or similar jobs. Can I do a same or similar job for my own company? And he said, that is not forbidden, or something to that effect. It was a double negative. So, I mean, it doesn't make me feel happy, but it's there. One thing I'd be careful about, if the nature of your job was, for example, teaching, the green card job was for teaching, and then you become a CEO of your own company, is that same or similar? You got to watch out for that. Okay. But if you are a consultant, and let's say your wife is running the company and you are still a consultant, even though you own stock in the company, even though you own 50% or 60 or 80% stock in the company, but somebody else is running the company, and genuinely you can be fired. I don't think anybody can stop you from doing a similar job for your own company. Okay. So if you were to protect your green card, you would have two possibilities of doing that. One is to continue working with the current employer or the sponsoring employer, and two would be to take a similar job with a company that you own, but you don't change your nature of the job that you do. Okay, that would be in a nutshell the immigration situation, and this holds true for many people who are in your situation. I-140 is approved, 485 has been pending 180 days. You can do what I just mentioned to you. Why don't you unmute me and ask me your follow-up questions on this?
Sure. So the immediate question then would be, what kind of companies are we allowed to create? Because there is LLC, there is S corp, or there is just general partnership. So which kind would be immigration-wise most easiest, or just good for new immigrants to start?
All right, let me get into that. First of all, USA has a very interesting set of rules. When you come from backgrounds like UK, India, and many other countries, we are a very strongly centralized federation. Our federalism is more centralized than United States. United States have a lot of power. In India, for example, if I remember correctly, there is something called Indian Companies Act, which is, I think it goes back to 1950, and it's the same law all through the country. Not so in the United States. In the United States, every state has its own contract law, it has its own corporations law, it has its own property laws. So everything is based upon the state you're in. Okay. Now, lawyers like me who are practicing federal laws, we can provide advice on federal issues to like immigration to anyone anywhere in the country. But state wise, we cannot provide advice because it's unethical and we may not know the law. Okay. So in general, the various kinds of corporate entities that you mentioned, the easiest one is sole proprietorship. Okay. So let's say Santosh starts a practice or a company, and instead of incorporating or doing any paperwork, he's just doing business by himself. There are pros and cons to that. The biggest pro is there is no formality. You're running the business. You can run it. You don't have to have different accounts, different paperwork. It's your own work. You can do it whichever. You can pay money out of your own accounts rather than having separate set of books and everything. On the other hand, the negative thing is, if something goes wrong with the business, people whom you owe money or people who want to assert any liability against you, for example, somebody has a slip and fall, they can sue you personally. That means all the money in the bank, all your assets are up for grabs. Okay, that's why people create a corporate shield. They create a shield against their personal liability, and that's done through devices like LLC, which is limited liability company, or through corporations. And I'll come to what chapter or subchapter S or chapter S corporation is in 1 second. What does corporation do? What corporation does is, let's say we have Santosh the individual, and then we have Santosh Inc., which is a corporation you have incorporated under the laws of any state you choose. You could be sitting in Delaware and incorporate in Las Vegas. Okay, You could be sitting in California and incorporate in Washington, D.C. That's totally up to you. There is something called qualifying to do business. You can actually incorporate anywhere and you can qualify to do business anywhere. It's just a couple of bucks extra, 10, 20, $30 extra to qualify to do business. What if you don't qualify to do business? Most states will just not allow you to sue in the name of the corporation. And so if you have to sue somebody, you can qualify to do business then. So you have to talk with the local lawyers about that, but it's not hard to do. You can incorporate anywhere. Most big corporations are incorporated in Delaware or New York. The reason is Delaware and New York corporate laws are pro-incumbents. So when you have publicly traded companies, the slate of directors and the slate of corporate officers that they have already incumbent have a big leg up. This is my understanding. I'm not an expert in corporate law anymore. I used to practice in that area, but I've been out of touch for a while. So a lot of companies do that. Plus, Delaware is one of the few places. The first time I did that, it really surprised the heck out of me because coming from India, I practice in many different jurisdictions. I have never seen a corporation being formed over the telephone. And Delaware let me form a corporation in 20 minutes. Okay, so forming a corporation is quite easy. As a practical matter, the advantage of forming a corporation is now Santosh Inc. is a different entity. It is not the same entity as Santosh. Santosh could be the director. Santosh could be 100% stockholder. Santosh could be the CEO, the treasurer, the joint secretary, whatever, everything in the corporation. Yet, if Santosh maintains corporate formalities and treats the corporation as an individual entity apart from itself, like maintaining separate accounts, maintaining separate books, uh, Santosh cannot be sued personally except under very limited circumstances, which is a very great advantage. Okay, so most people like to create a corporate shield, a corporation under which they do business. Make sure you maintain corporate formalities. It's not hard to do. You need to develop a relationship with a CPA first. I always start with a CPA. The reason, they can help you set up your accounts. They can make sure you make the proper IRS payments as and when needed, such as estimated tax filings, etc., etc. They can help you run your payroll. Our payroll, of course, our own, because I'm also a small business owner in that, although we don't consider ourselves businessmen, we provide a service. It's not just selling widgets. But nevertheless, I understand this from several different perspectives. I set up the first chart of accounts that our firm used. I set it up myself. So I've done everything from setting up servers to doing janitorial work to taking care of minor repairs around the office. I've done everything. I mean, I remember one time our network, which was it was a token ring, earliest network, and the network went down, and if there are 10 people sitting in the office, cannot work because cannot do any access to any computers. So when I called our network support engineer, he was out of town and he wasn't getting back till 3 days, and I had urgent work to do. So I just got under the tables and I started looking at every connection, and I found out that one of the terminators, was it a token ring or was it a one of the things? I don't remember exactly how it was, but the terminator had come off. It had broken off, and I remember using a one of those clamps, paper clamps. I used that to make a kind of a makeshift terminator so that we could at least work, and it lasted us 3 days. So as a small business owner, as somebody who's you have to do everything. So developing a relationship with a CPA is a great idea. They could also send you to a good business lawyer, which is also a great idea. Although I don't want you to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on lawyers' fees, of course, because you want to start with a shoestring budget. And you can do that. A lot of CPAs will help you actually even incorporate. There are professional incorporation companies which only charge a few $100s. And they will also act as your registered agent, which is an important thing to do. Okay? Now, you can be your own registered agent when you form a corporation. Now, LLC or C corporation or S corporation, well, C and S corporation are tax treatments. They are not types of corporation. They are merely elections for taxation purposes. in order for you to form an S corporation, to the best of my knowledge, you have to have a green card first. Until you get a green card, you cannot do S corporation. And I believe that you can file the S election, S corporation conversion, once you get your green card. So you could start as a C corporation, and this is something a CPA can help you with. My taxation knowledge is very poor. I barely passed my tax exam. I'm not ashamed to admit it. It wasn't my field. So you want to talk with somebody much smarter than I am in this field. So you'll decide what kind of corporation I want to form. I would certainly recommend LLC or Chapter C corporation to begin with. But if you want to start small and start individually and then convert into a corporation, you can do all of that. And the CPS can tell you how to do that. Things like what kind of liability insurances to get depend on the business that you're in. Typically, if you are in premises, there'll be local and state rules which make you buy certain insurances, which is fine, like fire insurance and premises insurance, sort of like home insurance that you've got. So they'll make you do that, and all of that can be sorted out. These are relatively minor things. You'll work them out. So you formed a corporation or you started your business. Okay, you need a set of contracts, if at all. You may not. If you're working with big corporations, they have their own contracts. One thing I'll tell you, unless the corporation is really, really large, there is no such thing as a standard contract. People will come and tell me, oh, this is a standard contract. I remember I litigated a contract 25 years ago, and it was it was a very large company, multi-billion-dollar company, who used to lease huge equipment like these cranes and construction site equipment. And the lawyer comes in, and I found a problem with the contract. And I told them, I said, this is a chapter under the Uniform Commercial Code. It was a technical matter, and I found an error, and I said, this is not a Article 9 transaction. It looks like something else. And as I was arguing this, the lawyer stood up and said, Your Honor, objection. This is a standard contract that we've been using for 200 years. Well, I said, antiquity was never a hallmark of merit. Just because we've done it this way for 200 years doesn't make it right. Okay, so I don't think there's any such thing as a standard contract unless you are dealing with disproportionate level of balance. So just watch out for that. Always a good idea to read what you're signing. Always a good idea to talk to your lawyers. So in a nutshell, you can start by yourself or you can incorporate. Incorporation is a rather easy process, but setting up your accounts properly is a good idea. Talk with your CPA and you get started. Okay. Immigration wise, you got yourself covered. You are either staying with the same employer or you are starting work with your own company in a same or similar job. Please unmute me if something doesn't sound clear.
No, this is great. So employment wise, in my particular case, I used to work for Motorola Research, and last year I switched jobs to start teaching because I'd always wanted to teach and have some impact. So I switched last year, and that was after spending 180 days in that before the portability kicks in.
Yeah.
So that's where I am, just FYI.
Good. That's excellent. That does give you options. And like I said, because of the AC-21, you have those neat options of starting a job for your own. But it depends upon what your green card was based upon. So same or similar job you can do for your own company.
Yeah, it was same or similar job. So the immediate next question, you already addressed half of my question, which was contracts. Like, should I have my own contracts? And you said get advice from CPA. So yes, I have a CPA lined up already for this. I was just waiting for this conversation before I kicked up stuff with that person. Then the question was, can I hire people on contract basis now? Okay. If I get myself.
In order for you to hire people under the US tax laws, you need a tax ID number. You can hire people under your own social security number. There's nothing stopping you from doing that if you are doing work solo. If you are making an LLC, the CPA will get you a tax ID number for the LLC. And for people that you hire as independent contractors, you will do something called a Form 1099. Okay, Form 1099 tells the IRS, this is how much I paid this guy, which is the equivalent of a W-2 which you do for your employees, something your CPA can set up. So can you hire contractors? Absolutely. Do you need to have a contract with them? There's no such requirement in any law. Okay, but it's a good idea, just common sense, even in your own words, if you can put it down. Remember one thing: IRS is picky about employees and contractor distinction. Your CPA can guide you in that. They cannot tell you everything about the law, they cannot tell you everything about business law, but they can tell you things that impact tax laws. So, under tax laws, if you couch somebody as a contractor, what is the advantage? The advantage is I don't have to deduct their taxes. Okay, whatever money I pay them, it's 100% tax write-off for me because it's my business expense. Paperwork is a lot simpler. Okay, so 1099s are great, but if you control the employee in how they do their work, IRS could come back and say, no, this is an employee, not a contractor, so you should have withheld their wages and you should have contributed towards their social security. So then it could get complicated, and your CPA can tell you. And in your contract or in your written communications, you could incorporate that as a part of your communication. That look, this is the extent of control we have over you. Example is when I hire somebody to fix my kitchen. If I'm redoing my kitchen, remodeling it, I can only tell them what I need done. I cannot tell them, you have to go. To a certain extent, I can tell them come between these hours, but they bring their own tools. Okay, they pretty much work their own hours, and you don't get to tell them how to do their work. You're only concerned with what in IT would be called deliverables. Okay, so keep that distinction in mind. Uh, just because you think somebody is an independent contractor, they may not be. Go ahead.
Uh, Again, I had mentioned this earlier. I teach, right, and I have a lot of international students who want to participate in projects. Can this LLC, can it hire student interns like CPTs and OPT people?
Let me ask you to mute me again. I want to point something out. Yesterday on LinkedIn, as well as on my blog, I made a small posting which said, look, for profit businesses would be ill advised to hire people who are not paid. Okay. Now, how much the payment should be, at least it should be the minimum wage. Rest depends. But people who are hired should fulfill two requirements. They should be authorized to work and they should be paid. Um, Under very limited circumstances, for profits may be able to do um, some limited amount of volunteering and internships. But read that posting that I have made. It's just a couple of paragraphs, but I think it's quite informative because I give you links to the Department of Labor. It's a violation of the Fair Labor Standards Act to hire people and not pay them. Okay, and there's a lot of litigation going on. That movie called Black Swan or something like that, they got sued, and I think they lost the case. Yes, they lost the case. There are three lawsuits going on the East Coast right now on these issues, including, I think, some kind of an entertainment company. So there's all sorts of lawsuits going on. The concept of internship that is unpaid in for-profit companies is vanishing fast. Okay, so keep this in mind. But if they have CPTs, sure, you can hire them, and you are only constrained by minimum wage laws to what you can pay them, because they get experience, you get some stuff from them. So, but check with, this is where the CPA and the local lawyers come in. You need to make sure not only that you're complying with the federal laws, and that you're also complying with the state employment laws. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was thinking paid internships for sure, because that's the best way to give students some exposure, but also some payments so that they can at least pay their rent.
Definitely, we've both been on both sides of this.
Exactly.
I remember when I moved to this country, the law school fees were so high that for getting a haircut, I would wait a good 6 months before I would go for a haircut. So, I would look like a flower child by the time my haircut was due. So.
This is great. Thank you so much. Yeah, so these are the kind of questions I had. If there's any advice on anything that I didn't ask that you know about.
Santoshji, you haven't asked that advice from me as a lawyer, but as a fellow traveler on the same path, as a fellow entrepreneur, I have realized something, and this is again a conversation we were having online, that we live in a capitalist country. I said, you know what, capitalism should not be treated with abandon. It shouldn't be irresponsible. I think when you create value, you get paid automatically. You know, and if you are creating value as a business, I think you will do well. So the focus should not be what goes in my pocket. The focus should be what am I creating. That's the way I look at it. Okay. And of course, when you are creating, your pockets get filled automatically. Okay. But what I want you to do is, as you go along in your business, anywhere you get stuck, let's do a series of these calls. We can talk again. I cannot answer your state law related questions, but I can give you advice on the immigration perspectives. And maybe I can pull in a state lawyer to work with us on these calls so that people are educated on these issues.
Oh, that's a wonderful idea. If we could make a series of these calls and edit them and host them on your website,
Absolutely.
because I cannot tell you how many people are out there with these questions.
Very good.
Before coming to you, I basically trolled the entire website and blogosphere on this, and there's only questions out there, not many answers.
Well, good.
So
Let's hope that we can answer a lot of these questions. And whatever I don't know, I'm not embarrassed to admit that I don't know, because with my gray hair, I have earned the right to say, look, I don't know. So, no problems. Thank you for your time. We'll talk again.
thank you so much. And just to say this, I really want to say this to you. If I can achieve your level of maturity and niceness, I'll feel like I'll have achieved something after doing this business and stuff. Okay, thank you so much.
I want to add one more line. I have a blog entry on this. There was a poet from the Middle East, a poet, mystic, philosopher called Khalil Gibran. I don't know if you ever read him.
No, not.
He has written a book called The Prophet, and that's available online free of cost, because in a lot of countries there is no copyright protection for that book. In USA there is. Read it. The book called The Prophet Khalil, Kahlil Gibran, Gibran, and he talks about, Master, talk to us about work. So he says, talk to us about work, and I'm paraphrasing. I don't remember the exact words, but he says, all life is vain. Vain means useless. All life is vain, save when there is urge, passion. All urge is blind, save when there is wisdom. All wisdom is words, save when there is work. All work is slavery, save when there is love. Work is love made visible.
Wow, that's awesome.
I think that's a great thing to aspire to, and if we can all create value like that, I think we'll all be rich. If not rich, at least we'll be wealthy.
Okay. Cheers to that. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you, sir. Bye-bye. Every other Thursday at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we host free community conference calls. Everybody is welcome to join. Some people post questions ahead of time. You can take membership in our forums. All of the details are there on our website, immigration.com. You can take membership ahead of time, and it's instantaneous. It happens right away. And post your questions beforehand, or you can just log in. The phone number and all are provided: 202-800-8394, 12:30 Eastern Standard Time, every other Thursday. We have free apps for both Apple iOS platform for your iPhones and iPads, as well as for Android. Just look for immigration.com, the period dot, and the application should show up.